in a Dorian. Hello, welcome to another Nickjitsu video. Today I'm going to be looking at playing inside. There seems to be a healthy obsession with playing outside diatonic keys and using lots and lots of complicated jazz theory, but nobody really discusses how to get interesting sounds inside the key. After my Alan Holdsworth lesson style video, I was inundated with a letter from Mrs. Edna Scrobes of 23 Acacia Avenue, who said, "Dear Nick, please tell me how I can improvise in a more exotic and colourful way without having to know lots of crazy jazz theory. P.S. Next time you're feeling down, depressed and lonely and you pop in next door, pop in and see me for a cup of tea and a bit of crumpet." As I said before, playing inside is basically sticking to the diatonic key that you're playing in. So for example, if the song's in D major, you play in D major. It's that simple. What you don't do is start using things like A flat major or anything like that. To get an inside sound, if you're playing in D major, then you just play D major over the top of D major. The outside sound is when you start playing things like A flat major. You see I kind of slipped outside the key there. So it's not for everybody. It's a very acquired taste. It's a bit like a good whiskey. When you're younger, you can't stand the taste of whiskey. It's kind of too medicinal, shall we say. But as you get older, you develop a taste for it. And then you start looking for certain types of whiskey and certain vintages and all that kind of thing. Same with wine, same with lots of things. In fact, speaking of fine things, fine ales. This is Jarl. This is one of my favourite beers of all time. Slantje waar. Yeah. Today I'm going to be using the key of E minor because, quite frankly, I can't be bothered thinking of a different key. And it's quite a popular key for guitar players. You'll find it in things like Superstition or Play That Funky Music or any Iron Maiden song. Don't know why I'm thinking of lots of Iron Maiden today. Or indeed Po-Faced Fusion off my album Hyperreal. In fact, Po-Faced Fusion is where I've taken the backing track for the example solo that I've done. I've just kind of looped the E minor section towards the end of the song. The song itself modulates through different keys and uses inside, outside playing, all that kind of thing. Get the album to listen to it. In my examples, I'm playing an E Dorian. And E Dorian is from what major key? D major. Correct. We've got D major as the first chord. And then we've got E minor. And then we've got F sharp minor. And then we've got G major. And then A major. And then B minor. And then C sharp diminished, and then back to D major. So for for the scale of E Dorian, you should get the notes of E, F sharp, G, A, B, and then C sharp, D, E, and then you carry on F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E. And then you can keep going F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E. Like that. So you've got tons of notes to play with. But I'm only going to stick with these notes, I think. You'll hear... I'm trying to think what I actually did, because it was improvised and I haven't listened back to it yet. So what I'll do is I'll take just an idea, like that, all based around E minor. And then what I want to do is I want to create a kind of a narrative. When you're talking, you don't say the same thing over and over again. You don't say the same thing over and over again. You don't say the same thing over and over again. Unless you're one of those people, you know, don't speak to those kind of people. What you do is you say the same thing, and then you say something related to that. that seems to be going somewhere. The main idea that I use is that if I'm in E Dorian, E minor, E Dorian, I've got the chords of D major on one side and F sharp minor on the other side. So every now and again, what I'll do is I'll be playing an E minor. Let me play some in. And then what I'll do is I'll go up to F sharp and do it. And when you do that over the E, it kind of creates that little bit of tension. Now I've got another video on pentatonic superimposition, so you can go away and watch that. I also mention it in my pentatonics video. But just taking an arpeggio of E minor and going up to F sharp minor, that's enough to kind of create that melodic tension. And again, we're not going outside the key, everything is still within D major. One of the devices that I use an awful lot is rhythmic phrasing and rhythmic repetition. So da ga da 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 ga da ga da 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 ga da ga da 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 da, that kind of thing. The way that you can practice this is if you play an E minor chord and you just play the E Dorian scale over the top. You should do this anyway. You practice the scale to a rhythm. That way it doesn't really sound like a scale, it sounds more like music, doesn't it? Yes. Instead of always going to your go-to place. So for example, in E minor, pretty much most guitar players will start shape 1 pentatonic, a couple of blues licks, and then that's it. What I tend to do is I'll start in a mode that you wouldn't associate with E minor, like a mode shape that you wouldn't associate with E minor. So for example, let's start in D major. Right? And you get that kind of ninth sound. You hear that a lot in jazz.
No, we don't want jazz.
If you look at the major chords, you've got D, G, and A. Like that. Now G is a relative major of E minor. And that sounds perfectly... sounds fine over the top of E minor. But A should be A7 actually. That yields some interesting little things that I'm going to come back to in a second. You hear me do take a cliche, standard blues cliche, but you can play it. That fits in A mixed Lydian. There you go. It also fits in kind of the B minor pentatonic. This goes back to pentatonic superimposition again. And if we've got three minors, we've got E minor, we've got F sharp minor and B minor, we should be able to do it in F sharp minor as well. So let's do it in F sharp minor. Every time you use something that you already know, just make sure you don't hang out on the F sharp minor too long. One of the tricks is to kind of, if you start something in F sharp, you come back into E minor again. To kind of reiterate that E minorness of E minor, because it's E minor. When you're looking at the diatonic chords, one of the cool little tricks that you get from that is a jazz idea.
No, not jazz. Called
triad pairs. And what it is just a pair of triads that are the same. So we've already seen the E minor and F sharp minor. They're right next to each other. And the triads. So in E minor you've got E, G and B. And in F sharp you've got F sharp, A and C sharp. And then all you do you just play them all over the neck. Every time I've got... So I'm actually playing an E minor 7 arpeggio here. And then F sharp minor 7 arpeggio here. The triad pairs things quite cool because when you combine it with all the minors that are in D major, I can play E minor, F sharp minor, and B minor. Now that's a nice little L shape, but all in minor arpeggios. But then look at what happens when I'm in B minor. There's B. If I go up a string, I'm back to E again. So I've got E, F sharp, and B. And then remember that shape would be that if we were tuned with a C string, but we've got a B string, so everything goes up a fret. And then we're back to the same. And then we run out of strings. But if we use the relative majors now, so that would be G and A, they're both in the key of D. So you've got G and A. G, A, G, A. So one of my other little tricks is rhythmic displacement. So what I'm doing is I'm not really thinking of 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm thinking of the phrase and musically how the phrase is going to come back in on itself, and kind of waiting for a beat for it to come back. When you hear it in isolation, it kind of sounds quite simple. But I think if I was to actually count it, my head would explode. It's way too complex for an idiot like me. It begins to kind of lose itself after a while, and then it comes back in again. So by using intervals in an unusual way, I do it twice in the solo, I think. I remember doing it. Way number 1 was when I started, again I'm thinking in a different mode shape, so I'm thinking in A, C sharp and E, like that. And we've got this kind of minor third thing going on with an open string. You just do the same thing on the next string. So you end up playing a D major arpeggio. And then going up to the next string and doing the same thing. And then next string doing the same thing. And then next string doing the same thing. And then that also fits there. Now the other thing that I'm doing is, again I'm going to stick with an A7 chord. A7's got a nice kind of, it's like tritonic plates against E minor. But it's got a nice kind of diatonic dissonance, if you like. So what you find certain notes that are almost kind of horrible with each other. So C sharp and B. Why do you think they're horrible to each other? Because if you do it the other way around, if you do B to C sharp, it's the next note in the scale. You know? It's that kind of sound. But when you separate it by an octave, you get that kind of bluesy sound. And it's that kind of Scott Henderson face sound. So it's a cool little trick that you can use to make everybody in the audience kind of go, do that kind of face. And it won't be because the sound engineers farted. Ultimately, use your ears as you're playing. Try and follow what you're doing and try and remember the phrase you've just played and then answer it properly. Think about your phrasing all the time. Once you get used to playing inside but kind of manipulating the harmony inside the diatonic sphere, then playing outside is a lot more natural and a lot easier because you'll hear it better. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you managed to get something out of that. Don't forget the album Hyperreal's out. Don't know if I mentioned it over the course of the video or any of my videos, but check it out. You can buy it and help out a poor, impoverished musician. I've also got a few slots for private lessons that have opened up. So get in touch via social media, email, through the my website, all that kind of thing. nickandrew.net. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and all that kind of thing. It helps the YouTube algorithm thing, as I'm sure you all know. And yeah, from me and from Jarl, Slanchever. When you're feeling down, depressed and lonely, I know a place where we can...
Oi! I've told you before, none of that jazz shit.